I recently had the pleasure of visiting Grasse, France for Grasse Perfume Week, and while I was there, I had the great opportunity to interact with so many amazing brands, founders, and creatives when it came to fragrance. And I know that we've been talking a little bit on this channel, especially in the last few months, about how so many releases end up looking a little bit stale, how we want to see more energy, more creativity on the market. And let me tell you, so many brands. In fact, most of the brands that were showing at Grasse Perfume Week were new, just a few years old, brands that really had a lot of creativity, a lot of motivation, and I wanted to cherry pick some of those brands and share them in a video here with you. Really shine a light on some of these amazing brands from across the world. These are not just French and European brands, these are brands truly that are international. And I talked a little bit about some of these brands in my last video where I talked about perfume shopping in France. So if you haven't watched that video on the subject, definitely do check it out because I kind of touched on a few really beautiful brands there as well. But in this video, I want to dive deeper and talk about some of the brands that really stood out to me. These are brands that I truly believe deserve so much more attention, and these scents are truly exquisite. So I'm excited to share this with you. But if this is your first time on this channel, hello, my name is Anya. I love fragrances. I talk about them here every single weekday. That is Monday through Friday. I also publish additional content on TikTok and Instagram under the username ANECHKAFRAGRANCES. And if you're interested in fragrance history, I do run a podcast called The Fragrance Report. It's available on YouTube and on Spotify, and I launch a new episode every Wednesday. Also, if you're looking to save a little bit more money and be more mindful when it comes to your fragrance consumption, I highly recommend you check out my fragrance collection log and expense tracker. It's a downloadable spreadsheet available in my Stand store. So, I am going to get started. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit intimidated by this video because there are many brands. I kind of am going to split this into two parts. So this first part that you're watching right now includes the brands that are super new, the brands that are releasing fragrances that are like really new and fresh. These are brands that are new to me, probably also new to you as well. But in the second part that I will do later on, I think next week, I'll be showcasing some brands that are already a little bit more established, but sharing some fragrances that were new to me that I got a chance to try and sample. So that will be coming next week. This week, we're talking about the new brands. So let's get into it. So this first segment is actually a collection of 3 brands all rolled into one. So this is a collaboration between perfumers and creatives who wanted to create special capsule collections for different themes. So I was able to smell all of the fragrances they had available at Grasse Perfume Week, and the brand representative, Selena, I believe, was so helpful in really taking me through each brand and each concept. And it was truly a wonderful experience because I do think that several of these fragrances are going on my wish list. Unfortunately, I do not have samples for all of the fragrances, but I have samples for a few. So I'm going to kind of cover the other fragrances I don't have in front of me as well. So this brand, this collection of 3 brands, actually includes Buong, and if I'm mispronouncing it, please forgive me, but I'll put the names on the screen. I also have Kimu and Musicians, and then I also have Tombstone, I think Tombstone fragrances. So essentially, these 3 brands are all kind of under the same umbrella of creatives who want to create innovative and artistic fragrances inspired by Chinese culture, I believe, and also inspired by different themes. So, for example, I'm going to talk about Buong first. So, I believe this is the brand that's like more inspired by Chinese culture, and I smelled a few of these, and I'll tell you the one that really popped out at me, and of course I'm going by memory because I don't have these samples in front of me now, but I still want to let you know about this brand. So they had 3 fragrances: Drunken Jade, Elegant Jade, and Holding the Sword. So I would say, I'm starting off strong here, I loved all 3 of them. All 3 of them, I was like, these are standouts for me. I really, really love them. Let's go through the notes. So Drunken Jade has notes of grapes and aldehydes at the top, a mid of thyme, lavender, and styrax, and then a base of cedarwood and gaiac wood. Then we have Elegant Jade. Elegant Jade is a woody yellow floral fragrance with notes of almond at the top, a mid of ylang-ylang and jasmine, and then a base of white sandalwood and rue. Finally, we have Holding the Sword. Holding the Sword is a metallic mineralic scent with metallic notes at the top, a mid of saffron and red rose, and then a base of blood. Yes, you heard me correctly, blood, and cedarwood. You might be surprised, or you might not be if you've watched me for long enough, but my favorite is actually Holding the Sword. That one was the one that really popped out at me. I was so tempted to just like buy the bottle right then and there, but I had no room in my luggage at that point, so that had to be a pass for me. But I love these fragrances. Like, these fragrances really popped out at me. If I remember correctly, like, my number one favorite was Holding the Sword. Then I think I really liked Drunken Jade. And then the third favorite for me was Elegant Jade. They were very well blended, super wearable. I think the Holding the Sword fragrance, to me, like, it smelled. So, okay, when you think about blood, right, I think a lot of us like, get really intimidated by like the idea of like a blood scent, but think about like the metallic undertones of blood. That's what they really experimented with in this particular fragrance. And we also have like, the saffron and the red rose note, and I do think that those notes were pulled forward a little bit more. So in a sense, this was kind of like a dry, kind of sweet fragrance. It did have mineralic notes, but I tend to really love that. This perfume to me was like one of the highlights of entire Grasse Perfume Week. I really fell in love with it. I'm absolutely going to have it on my full bottle wish list. It was beautiful. And I'm like kicking myself that I forgot to get a sample of it, but it was beautiful. But then I want to tell you about some of the other fragrance brands under this umbrella that they have. So then we have Tombstone. Now, Tombstone is definitely one of the most avant-garde brands that I have ever come across. They are inspired by death. And what's interesting is that like the Tombstone, like these actual bottles are meant to resemble tombstones, and each one is slightly different. Each one has like a different like material to it, like, or a different texture. So if you look at the bottles themselves, like, they're super unique, and these are definitely like statement artistic pieces. So Tombstone has 5 fragrances in the selection. So they have 3 Feet 5, Evergrow, No Need to Come By, Sing at My Funeral, and Sweet Coffin. So let's break these down individually. 3 Feet 5 has heliotrope at the top, jasmine and mimosa in the middle, and then a base of orris and smoke. Evergrow has notes of galbanum and bergamot at the top, a mid of rose, labdanum, and orris, and then a base of oak moss, patchouli, and musk. We also have No Need to Come By. This is an ambery, warm, spicy fragrance with top notes of mint, pepper, and thyme, a mid of myrrh, jasmine, and olibanum, and then a base of sandalwood, tonka, and patchouli. We also have Sing at My Funeral. This one was definitely the one that was the most approachable. Like, in my mind, I smelled it. I was like, yeah, this is going to be probably like one of their top sellers because it's the easiest to love. So this is a white floral honey fragrance with top notes of honey, neroli, and mint, a mid of lily, jasmine, and orris, and then a base of amber, cedarwood, and vetiver. We also had Sweet Coffin. Now, this has notes of earthy notes, woody notes, and floral notes. Again, I'm going off of memory. I unfortunately don't have samples of any of these fragrances, which is totally fine, but I feel like I know enough to like kind of give you what these fragrances smelled like. So all of these fragrances are all the fragrances in this particular line were either they're all like, very well blended. So I wouldn't say that the gourmand notes were really like super overtly gourmand, but the theme of the fragrances in themselves to me was kind of like a smooth, woody, earthy theme. So a lot of these fragrances had varying levels of intensity when it came to the earthiness. The one that was the most like insanely like kind of not insanely as in a bad way, but like the one that was like the most like reactive for me was definitely, let's see, it was definitely Sweet Coffin, because that one was the one that like smelled incredibly earthy, like dirt-like, and essentially this, entire line is meant to normalize the death, because death will come for us all, memento mori, as they say, and this whole line is meant to kind of give death a more approachable tone. And I think it's nice because like when we think about like art and we think about fragrances, we all have like different ways of sharing that creativity, and I think that there is an audience for this kind of brand. I mean, obviously we have like people that are super goth that really like alternative themes, and I feel like this would be the brand for them. So if you are like curious and you're trying to like sample this line and you want something that's like super like polarizing, then I would definitely get the one I just mentioned, which is called Sweet Coffin. No Need to Come By was also one that I really liked actually, and it's a little bit more approachable. But I would say Sing at My Funeral, in my opinion, if we think about like what from the line is like the most approachable, Sing at My Funeral is definitely going to be the easiest to wear. Definitely a brand to keep out to keep an eye out for. But the third brand that I'm going to mention from this kind of umbrella that I actually do have samples for is called Kimu and Musicians. So these were fragrances that were inspired by different aspects of a musical band. So we had guitarist, drummer, bassist, and vocal. So I have the fragrances sprayed on tester strips, so we're going to go through them. So the very first one that I have here is Guitarist. Now, Guitarist is a fragrance with top notes of green vines and black currant, amid of fig leaves, rose, and labdanum, and then a base of cedarwood and amber. Next, we have Drummer. Now, Drummer is a fragrance with notes of black pepper and thyme, amid of nutmeg and gaiac wood, and then a base of amber and leather. Next, we have Vocal. Now, Vocal has notes of mint and lily of the valley, saffron and violet, and then a base of orris and musk. And then finally, last but not least, we have Bassist. So Bassist has notes of galbanum and petitgrain at the top, amid of patchouli and sandalwood, and then a base of cedarwood and ambergris. So let's try to smell these individually. So we just talked about Bassist, so let's go for that one first. All these fragrances are like kind of earthy and aromatic, right? And this one like has a really pretty dry down. So like, it's definitely a very unisex fragrance that kind of leans masculine. In fact, I think all of these might be. And it definitely like has a bit of spiciness in it that I think comes from galbanum, but it's also a very woody fragrance. We also have Drummer. I think this is, wait, yeah. Yeah, Drummer. Okay, let's try Drummer. This one is also interesting. It smells like it smells like a guy. I will say, it smells like a guy, like an earthy guy. There's leather in here, that makes sense. So yeah, it smells like an animalic leathery kind of concept, which makes sense because it's inspired by Drummer. So there's that. And we also have Vocal. I think this one's my favorite. Was it? I think I like Guitarist the most. Actually, I'm kind of split between the two. So Vocal is a kind of like the more, I think, powdery one. So it has top notes of mint lily, okay, yeah. It has violet, orris, and musk. I love those notes any day of the week. So yeah, it makes sense that this is my favorite. I really like it a lot. And then Guitarist, it's kind of like earthy, spicy. Yeah. Kind of like smooth, like almost leathery with the labdanum. But labdanum sometimes can like mimic, in my mind, it can mimic the kind of like the tone and the smoothness, like animalic nature of the leather, but it's smoother. Yeah, this is more wearable than like the leathery one. I would say like this is like, I would say all of them are unisex, kind of leaning masculine. Vocal is going to be the most unisex one because it has like the, I think, orris and violet. All of these are very compelling. Again, these are kind of pushing the envelope a bit. I wouldn't say that these are going to be, well, it's difficult when you're talking about an international brand. I mean, okay, let's say it right here. None of these fragrances I'm talking about are necessarily blind buy safe. These are the kind of fragrances that like I would buy this at your own risk, but they're international. It's hard to get them. Like some of these fragrances, not these specifically, but like the ones I'm talking about in general, some of them might be a little bit harder to try in the U.S. So I can like give you like my impression on these, but buy these at your own risk. These are definitely artistic and definitely pushing the envelope a bit. So there's that on that. These are really compelling fragrances. I am especially, like, I think, what was it called? The sword one that I just talked about. Like, I really want to get that fragrance. I want to get it so bad. Like the kind of metallic, mineralic one. That one's beautiful. Yeah, but these fragrances, all of them, are very compelling, thought-provoking. I smelled them over the course of like 2 days. I literally kept going back to smell them again because like I'd never smelled anything quite like these. So if you're looking for something that's like unique and earthy and interesting, these are really, really, like it would be really compelling. Next, we have a brand called Maison Catalia. So this was interesting because they're a French brand, but they're really inspired by tiles. So this specifically is called Zellige Mosaic. It's spelled Zellige Mosaic, and this is an art form that is spread across the Mediterranean from like Algeria to Spain. Basically, this art form involves different types of tile. And this line of fragrances was created with that inspiration in mind. So each one of these fragrances represents a different type of tile found in a different city. And I believe the fragrance notes inside the fragrance are supposed to mimic what is found in that city, which is fascinating. I tried all the fragrances. The one that really stood out to me as like my number one favorite was actually this one. It's called Meison. So Meison is a fragrance. Let's take a look at this. It's a woody iris perfume. Are you surprised? I love that. I love iris. And it's a black pepper and bergamot fragrance at the top. It has a mid of guaiac wood and ginger. And then it has a base of iris, incense, and vanilla. I love this one. Like, this is perfect. It's like woody, but it also has like a clean powderiness to it. There's an interesting sweetness to it that I find quite compelling as well. This is also going on the full bottle wish list. I think this is definitely going on the full bottle wish list. It's so beautiful. Yeah, this is quite lovely. So this is an interesting brand. I think they're like super, super new. They came out like, I think with this fragrance this year at least. But yeah, I was very impressed. They have a bunch of other fragrances as well that I don't have samples for. So like, I really wanted to choose the one that was like my favorite. And for me, like that was definitely this one. Next, we have another French brand that is really fascinating, especially for those of us who are interested in history and archaeology. This brand is called Anatle Leon, and this is named after the founder of the same name. And this brand is interesting because the founder has quite the fascination with archaeology and ancient history, and the fragrances he creates really embody that interest. And when you look at all the fragrances, like they're kind of like, in my mind, I was like thinking that they were almost Nordic inspired when I first saw them. But when I first started smelling them, I was like, wait, these are actually really good. Think like aromatic, spicy, woody fragrances that are earthy but still really approachable. I would say that these are the fragrances. These are like unusual fragrances, but that are not like too not so unusual that you would find them challenging. They were actually rather approachable. The two that really stood out to me personally were Duende and Uruk. So let's break these down. So Duende has notes of allspice and Devon at the top, a mid of cacao, oud, clove, and cypriol, and then a base of a note called amber arome, civet, and castoreum. I almost dropped my phone. And then we also have Uruk. And Uruk is actually really interesting. So this is an amber spicy fragrance with notes of nutmeg, frankincense, labdanum, benzoin, and orange. The one I just mentioned, Uruk, is definitely like the brighter one, and I think that comes from the orange. It's like it really stands out as like being like very bright, kind of like in the same way that like saffron or rhubarb has like a certain like bright tart factor. That's kind of what I get with this fragrance. Like a similar, like, kind of like bright quality. And then Duende is like earthy, like aromatic. Like if you love like kind of soft, spicy scents with vetiver, like that kind of like scent category, you will really like this. This is beautiful. Yeah, definitely keeping an eye out for this. These two fragrances were my personal favorites, but the brand obviously has a ton of really interesting scents. The owner has, I think, a collection of like vintage perfumes that he's inspired by, and even though the first fragrance I mentioned does have like those animalic notes, it's very smooth. It's not like too abrasive at all. Definitely worth checking out. Next, I have a super interesting brand. This is a new company in the market, and if you are a fan of tailoring, if you like kind of like clean, elegant, like leathery accords, then this is definitely one to keep an eye out for. I was quite fascinated by this brand. So this is called Max Focott, and this is another brand that's named after the founder, Max. And I talked with Max for quite some time, and he's actually done a lot of moving around in his life. So he grew up in London, then he moved to California, and then he lives in Paris, I believe. So he has had a lot of like different environments that he's surrounded by, and he created this line of fragrances inspired by those experiences. So he has 3 fragrances in his line so far. So first we have Ombre Vivant, then we have Ombre Solaire, and then we have Ombre Nocturne. To be quite honest with you, I liked all 3 of these fragrances equally. They were all really interesting, compelling, wearable fragrances, and I'll put some photos on the screen. I mean, I'm hoping I'll be able to put some photos on the screen throughout this video, but he actually was inspired by different fabrics for each one of these fragrances. So he does have a personal passion for tailoring, and each one of these perfumes was accompanied by like a different set of fabrics that were supposed to represent these fragrances, and I really love that extra touch. And I think especially for the guys out there, or even the women who really like love tailoring and really like that craftsmanship, where you're trying to get a gift for someone that also like really loves like fashion and men's tailoring, then this could really be a good brand. The affordability, by the way, was pretty good. I'm not talking about pricing too much in this video, but basically his fragrances are around 120 pounds, which is rather good. So let's talk about the actual individual notes. So Ombre Vivant is the fragrance that's inspired by London, and yes, I do remember really liking this one because this is a leathery fragrance with top notes of leather and fruit comfy, a heart note of honey, floral, tea, and ylang-ylang, and then a base of leather, sandalwood, and saffron. Also, this includes notes of gaiac, cistus, and ylang-ylang. All right, and then Ombre Solaire includes notes of bergamot, bitter orange, marine, orange flower green, and fresh spicy notes, a heart of floral, aromatic, jasmine spices, and white flowers, and then a base of vetiver, woody notes, cedar, musk, underwood, earthy notes, and hay. And then Ombre Nocturne is the fragrance that's inspired by Paris. The previous one was inspired by California. This one's inspired by Paris. And it has notes of bergamot, mandarin, lemon, orange, flowers, and smoky notes. A heart of iris floral notes, jasmine spices, coffee, and ylang-ylang. And then a base of heliotrope, woody notes, vanilla, tobacco, balsamic notes, sandal, and sour notes. Sour. I can't speak anymore. It's been a long time filming this, but yeah, a really compelling brand. He's super new to the market. Definitely recommend you check him out. So moving on to Alhambra. This is a brand that I'm so incredibly excited about. This is founded by a scientist, Dr. Frida Michailidou. I'll put her name on the screen. I can't pronounce things very well at all. But essentially she is a Greek scientist living in Zurich, and she has long had an interest in perfume, and her field is very scientific, and she has actually done a few excursions on Mount Olympus. As many of you know, Mount Olympus has a huge cultural and historical significance in Greece. It's also the tallest mountain in Greece, so there's a lot of biodiversity on this mountain, and she wanted to create fragrances inspired by endangered plants on this mountain, on Mount Olympus. And I would definitely recommend you listen to her TED Talk. She did a TED Talk a few months ago. It's been posted on YouTube already. I'll link it down below for you guys to check out. But she really delved in deep into her story, her fascination with creating ethical perfumes with endangered plants, which is rather difficult to do, or it sounds like something that would be quite challenging. And she has done it with this brand. So she has 5 fragrances, and I have samples of all of them here. This is a brand that is for those of you who want something that's like earthy, vegetal, plant inspired. You want something that you've never really smelled before. I have a firm favorite in this selection, but I'm going to go through all of these. And by the way, I'll be butchering the pronunciation of I think a lot of these fragrances, so if I am, please do forgive me. But first we have Alhambra Dalmiron. So Dalmiron has notes of neroli, petitgrain, bergamot, sea breeze accord at the top, a heart of geranium, lavender, and the signature Alhambra plant accord, which is coming, or it's supposed to mimic the endangered species on Mount Olympus. And it has a base of marine and mineral accord, gray amber accord, vetiver, and musk accord. Then we have Aquileia, and Aquileia is my favorite. Sorry, spoiler alert, it's my favorite. It's neroli, lemon, and juniper berry at the top. It has a mid of Olympus's yarrow, orris root, and the Alhambra plant accord, and then a base of musk accord, ambrette, blue cypress, beeswax, and sandalwood. I also have Alhambra Orienthia. So Orienthia is a fragrance with notes of neroli, bitter orange, and petitgrain at the top, a heart of pine, lavender, blue cypress, and the Alimmer plant accord, and then a base of ambrette, musk accord, benzoin, beeswax, and hoe wood. And then we also have Caron. Now Caron to me was a very like masculine in my mind. So this has top notes of lemon, neroli, and black pepper, a mid of tobacco, rose, damask, and the Alimmer plant accord, and then a base of sandalwood, vetiver, hyrax, and smoked wood. And then we have Persephone. This was my second favorite. This is a fragrance with notes of bergamot, pink pepper, and cardamom at the top, a heart of damask rose, rose centrifolia, and the Alimera plant accord, and then a base of cacao, tonka bean, hyrax, beeswax, and gray amber accord. So here's some of the fragrance test strips I've been working on in this video. Like I'm dedicated to say the least. But the first one that I want to talk about is Thalmiron. Thalmiron is very soapy, so it's a fragrance inspired by the ocean. So there's a definite sea accord here. It's quite like a soapy, clean girl smell, but it's very like, it's kind of like a white soap kind of fragrance. You know what I mean? Like it's a white soap kind of sea breeze kind of perfume. This could be like a very like nice vacation scent. But like all these scents, by the way, all these fragrances have like a certain depth to them. They're not like fleeting. They are, I would say, heavy hitters. Like a little bit does go a long way. They're quite potent. There's quite a bit of diversity in this line. Some of these perfumes are very intense. Some of them are a little bit lighter. This next one is on the lighter side. So Orienthia is a fragrance that's like light. It's like a little bit floral. That's what I get with it. So yeah, you have like the lavender, the musk, the neroli. This is soft, floral, quite pretty. Now we have Caron. Caron is definitely like, it really pops out at you as being like a masculine fragrance, especially at the opening. But then like, I think you also get, yeah, there's like a rose kind of sandalwood tobacco combination. So what I like about this is that the tobacco is apparent, but it's not too like sweet, because sometimes tobacco can be like this like sickly sweetness that I personally don't really love. But this is kind of like a drier tobacco. I like it. It is quite compelling. So that one is also one that I would recommend specifically for men. Then we have Persephone. It's like that sweet rose, not too sweet. Like nothing in this line is too sweet. It's very vegetal. It's very natural smelling. But it doesn't like, what's nice about these fragrances is that it doesn't smell like the like kind of essential oil section in a natural food store. Like, you know what I mean? If you've ever been to one. These are clearly very like well thought out, very beautifully done fragrances, and that is apparent, but they take inspiration from the natural world, which I do find quite compelling, because also like, I really do think you should smell these if you're interested in them, because the greenness here is not something I've encountered before. It's not like, it's kind of, it's very interesting. And I guess that that's because they're inspired by an endangered plant, or a selection of endangered plants that I have never smelled before in my life. So these are like, this is a very interesting and novel olfactory experience for me. And then last but certainly not least is the one that comes like in the bright green kind of packaging, which I really love. So Aquileia is definitely the one that for me is going to be like a full bottle wish list. It's balsamic, it's bold, it's interesting. Like there's so much going on in here that I really love. This is beautiful. It's beautiful. Like I love the juniper berry here. The juniper berry, like it's more apparent in the opening, but like this fragrance really celebrates like that the vegetal like kind of Alimera accord. But in general, if you are interested in these fragrances, I believe this brand is launching this month. So it's quite exciting. I'm really looking forward to, you know, seeing them grow. And I feel like Frida is so, like Dr. Frida is so passionate about these fragrances, and I really do wish her the best. Again, like it's great to see so much passion coming from creatives who want to create fragrances that are not redundant, but truly come from a place of creativity, which I love. So next I have a fragrance brand that I was unfortunately unable to kind of like get on a tester strip, because these samples are in fact dabbers. But this brand is called, or is by the creator Manuel Matho, and like these this brand is created by him. And what's really interesting is that this brand aims to create like creative experiences with their fragrances. They specifically have custom made their bottles to look a certain way. And the fragrances themselves are supposed to be, I believe, unisex, and they are supposed to function as experiences, not just products. And I believe they also did have a spotlight in Paris Fashion Week, I think. I think they had like their fragrance featured in one of the shows. But they have 3 perfumes, and these 3 fragrances really did stand out to me during Grasse Perfume Week. So let's go through them all. So we have Desire, so that's spelled D-S-I-R-E. Then we have Il Noir, and then we have Echo. So these fragrances are going to be available at Stell in Brooklyn or New York City, but they're going to be available at Stell, so they are somewhat easy to access in the States, so definitely do check them out if you're able. But let's go through the notes. So first we have Echo. Now this fragrance has notes of turmeric and lemon at the top, a mid of sandalwood, patchouli, and moss, and then a base of Saffiano leather, vanilla bean, and vetiver. Then we have Desire. So Desire is a marine white floral tuberose scent with notes of marine notes, grapefruit, and jasmine at the top, a mid of tuberose, ylang-ylang, and frangipani, and then a base of vanilla, musk, and Haitian vetiver. And then finally, my absolute favorite was Il Noir. This is a woody green fragrance with notes of grapefruit, ginger, and bergamot at the top, a mid of ambergris, jasmine, and tobacco, and then a base of oak, Haitian vetiver, and frankincense. Now, let's actually smell these. If you look, let me show you the samples. Actually, I don't think I've done that yet. Look at this. Isn't this lovely? It's really beautiful, but I do wish it was a spray, but like, I'm not complaining too much because like, I mean, this is like a lovely look, you know? I've like encountered plenty of fragrances that like literally just like have like the kind of unattractive dabbers, and at least this is like a visually appealing dabber. This is Echo. Let's talk about Echo. So, and see, the thing is, when you work with dabbers, you can't really get like the top notes as much, so I think I'm bound to get like the mid and the base notes here, but I can definitely smell like the woodiness of the sandalwood. That is quite apparent. It's earthy, but not too much. It's like a bright aromatic fragrance. This is beautiful. I remember really liking all these fragrances, but I will also talk about my number 1 favorite. But let's go for Desire. So Desire is it's very focused on the tuberose. It's kind of like a sweet, almost indulgent tuberose with that saltiness. This is a really pretty fragrance. I do like it, but I feel like all 3 of these fragrances are really beautiful. So like, it's definitely my 3rd favorite. I like it, but the other 2 for me were like really the wow fragrances. But if you're looking for a tuberose one, this is really good. Okay, so then last but certainly not least, I have Il Noir. This is my favorite. It's fresh, spicy. It's definitely focused on those woods and the grapefruit and the ginger. So this is lovely. So all of these fragrances I really did appreciate and love. I think this is like light and bright, and I could definitely get like the soft like aromatic spiciness, but it's very wearable. So these are 3 amazing fragrances. Again, the bottle design and the whole aesthetic of the brand is so creative and so lovely, and they really do focus on the creativity of it all. So definitely check these out. I was very impressed by all 3. But yeah, that's it for this video. I've been filming this for like, I think an hour, if I'm being honest. Like, there were so many brands to go through. A lot of really strong contenders in this video, because I really, like I said, I really do think that there's so much creativity and so much passion in the fragrance community that's coming, like up and coming, and so much nuance. So let me know which brand stuck out to you the most. I will continue posting videos and content about Grasse Perfume Week, because as you can imagine, I just talked about a handful of brands, but there's so many other brands that were showing at Grasse Perfume Week. I will continue to make content, but these were like some of my favorite, like most noteworthy brands that really stood out to me, that I really just like came away with. I just like dropped a bunch of samples that I really came away with, and I was like, wow, I need to talk about these. But let me know which were your favorites. Stay tuned for part 2, where I'll go into like the more established brands, the brands that you might have heard of, the brands that are a little bit not as of super new. So I'll be doing content on that as well. But thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.